Hey, Giants, welcome to Wake Up with Giants. Do you ever wonder who you need to be? We've got a great show for you. Hang tight. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants. I'm Nick Smith. And as always, we're just grateful to have you on the show. I've got a special guest today. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that. I don't know where it places on the video, so it's either here or there or over there. But either way, go to YouTube and subscribe because that's where we have tons of really valuable content. If you're not part of the Tribe of Giants, make sure you go there and join the Tribe of Giants and join a community of giants all over the world with all kinds of backgrounds who are doing what you're doing. They're pursuing their highest potential. And so make sure you're part of that. We do have some upcoming events. In June, we have the Garth Brooks SG group live, which will be a 2-day intensive group where we'll teach you the 12 journeys. And then at night, we're just going to go have fun and listen to some Garth Brooks live at his concert. And so make sure you're a part of that. If you haven't joined any of the SG groups or any of the other programs we're running, reach out to me. We'll DM you the message or the information and we'll play with it. There's no pressure to join it. And if it speaks to you, we'll talk about it. If not, we'll still be friends. Kind of a good thing. So we got a really cool guest on today, Rephoel. How do I say your first name?
Yeah, I was gonna wait and see how many varieties.
Yeah. I could butcher it.
I go by Rephoel. So
Rephoel. Okay, Rephoel Wolf. I met Rephoel, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I believe through Steve Hardison. And I didn't know what to think of you when I first met you. You were very frank in your way of being, and I freaking love it because what I know about you is you will always speak your mind. My experience of you is that you hold space for other people's points of view. You're a phenomenal cook, baker, right?
baking.
With cakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody told me to cook them anything.
No, just baking. So if you love cakes, cookies, pastries, Rephoel is just absolutely incredible when it comes to this. And so, in fact, we had a contest a while back where you actually won the contest with your contribution.
My cup here.
Yeah, there you go. There's your cup that you won. Congratulations. Doesn't that feel good to win such a trophy?
I never win anything. It's amazing.
Yeah, you actually sent me some and they were incredible. Really, really good. Outside of that, I just experience you as an authentic human being. You're truly being yourself. You don't change from person to person. And if people get to know you, they'll realize quickly how real you're being in the conversation. And that's one thing that I appreciate with you. As we dive into this conversation, it's an exploration of your journey, but also your philosophy. So as we go through these questions, answer them however it feels. And we're going to get way off track here and just have fun for the next hour or so. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for the invite. And allow me to just correct you in just something that you said there.
Okay.
The way that we met, actually, you wouldn't believe it, but we met because Jen Walter posted that your book was coming out, and I loved the graphics. So that's when I reached out to you because I think I got the ebook was still available, like that 99-cent thing you guys did. So that's actually how we connected.
Oh, man.
And it was because I saw the book. I do a little bit of art, so I just had a really deep appreciation for that style, and I'm like, I love this.
That's
so
perfect.
I reached out to you, and I do that stuff. I just reach out to people that I, feel pulled to connect with for whatever random reason. I don't know if you know Matt Evans.
I know Matt Evans. We've met online, so yeah.
Yeah. So I'm connected with Matt simply because he looks like Iron Man, and I reached out to him and said, "I love that you are Iron Man," and we just took it from there. And he was receptive to that.
Some people really are like,
not.
That's cool. I got to meet you in person at the Being event, the ultimate event down in Arizona. And man, you're a lot taller than I thought. In the picture, you kind of sit down a little lower, but you're a tall dude and really have just a great energy about you. And so, as we dive into today, what I want to explore, and you can help me with this, um, going back in time in your life, was there ever a phase that you weren't being, that maybe you were unconscious, that maybe you were just living off of what you were taught? Does that make sense? Where you
Sure,
you were
sure.
living the life that was handed to you in a sense?
Um, I'll answer that, what rings true to me.
Okay.
Um, and I'm not a big storyteller
Yeah,
of my own life. I don't view my life as such a great story. I got a lot of stories. I could talk for days about my life. But
sure.
about one of the questions you have there, like you just asked, like your history and that kind of stuff, it is pretty basic. But if you asked me like you did, was there a point where you were not living and then yes living? I'm going to pull out those two words.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
I definitely remember when, the way I got into coaching in the first place. So I first got into coaching when I discovered through my life's journey what even coaching was. And that was, I know through my teenage years, I had, you know, I'm not, Steve Hardison, 3 years old in the shed pondering life type of person, but I was a little bit
Okay.
always looking and noticing things. And I noticed as a teenager um, what it what it meant to be a leader and to have confidence was just to pretend like you do,
Okay.
and no one is really going to question that. And so I was living from a place of confidence that was, it was fake because I knew I didn't believe it, but I knew that nobody else, if you stand, strong in a decision, most people won't question that and they'll
Yeah.
just follow that. And I discovered that upon viewing someone else who I also thought was pretty confident get really offended about something, is that your confidence is only as strong as nobody questions it. But as soon as somebody does stand up, your world, and I remember like this thought, like it feels like your foundation is crumbling.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had that experience. And then I went on a journey of really understanding myself. So I kind of took myself apart. I remember having, those crying breakdowns and those
Yeah.
days of just staring into the blank, like my whole life is fake because I don't believe in this. And as long as somebody has the courage to stand up to that, then I got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
almost like they get through the surface, and and then you don't know what to do because nobody's ever gotten through the surface, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, I noticed that that's still true with most people. If
Okay.
you push through, you're going to see them, unless they're legit, they're going to falter. They're going to get defensive. They've never either had someone break through there. So I remember at that point in my life, it was probably when I was like 20, that I had that shift and I started over.
Hmm.
And I learned to really see my own value from myself, but most importantly, to realize that our thoughts create our reality and we're living in whatever we want to believe.
Okay,
So,
so before we dive into that, I want to hang on this awakening, right? This realization. Okay, so
mhm,
when you woke up to that and you become conscious, like, no,
mhm.
I have a say in my life. Were there a lot of judgments that came up? Was there
Me on
shame?
myself. Oh yeah,
Yes,
for
yeah.
sure.
Can you speak to that?
I don't know if it was shame, but it was just like I am nothing. Like I got nothing really deep down here. Like at
Okay.
my core, so it's just black
Okay.
and unworthy and
Okay.
very just like um I remember trying to explain to a friend of mine at the time who noticed this, and I was like, I had no words. I was like, I could just sit here and cry
Yeah.
about this. Um, and I did have at that time it was a coach slash therapist. He was a mix. He's still confused to this day, by the way. He's not sure what he is.
Okay.
But who I started seeing because of that. I said,
Yeah.
if this is who I am at my core, then that's not so cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it does, like, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. So when you experience that, I want to tie this in. So when I hit these questions, the reason I do this is because I have this hypothesis of how it all works, how it kind of plays out. And
Hmm.
often we go from that unconscious state of living to an awareness. And then often when we get into that awareness, we have a lot of judgments that come up. And then we go into a stage of grief around what is compared to where we think we should be or what we
Yeah.
think others
Hmm.
think should be. And so
Yeah,
was there
absolutely.
some of that for you as you looked
Yeah.
at your ideal?
I, yeah, I agree to everything you just said. I like the way that you put that, but yeah,
Yeah.
sure. That definitely did that what occurred to me.
Yeah. And so when we move into that grief state, if you can speak to this a little bit, um, what did you experience and how did you move through it? So as you got into that space of realizing that kind of seeing life as it is, really, somebody breaks through the facade and you start really diving deep and you realize there's not much down there. There's no foundation to anything that I've done so far. And so you get into that space and likely there's this feeling of maybe sadness, maybe defeat within that, maybe a feeling of frustration. Did you have some of those emotions come up? And then if so, what did you do with them? How did you move through them? How did you start growing?
Hmm. So I can't speak to the emotions
Yeah,
exactly. I don't recall that.
sure.
And I also want to make a little clause here that one of the reasons why I don't usually have a story is I don't believe everybody needs to have this breakthrough journey and now they become Tony Robbins. Like
No,
they can be
okay.
regular people also. So I don't put myself into this great breakthrough
Gosh,
thing, but did
gosh
occur.
dang it. Yeah.
What did occur is what's coming to mind is getting through that, meaning it's like you had like you experience like you just described, there's that breakdown, there's that sadness maybe. And
Mm,
how do you get through that is, to me, the words I would use now is the slowing down and looking at the thoughts.
mm.
I really believe that was the process. It's okay. So in this place,
Yeah.
and believing all these things about myself, which are not good, obviously I'm worthless and I'm a fraud and I
Yeah.
don't know what I am.
Yeah.
Then from that place, it's kind of like what is really true?
Yeah.
Meaning these judgments that I might be having on myself, it's in the word, it's a judgment.
Okay.
Um, with a therapist, you can track, where are those coming from.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah.
but I think the main thing is, besides from where this is coming from, but it's what you're choosing to believe. So like what's really true about you? Is it
Okay.
really true that because you've been living this way this whole time that you are a fraud? Like, does that make you a fraud?
Yeah.
What is really true about you? And from that place, when you got nothing to hide or nothing to really stick up for,
Yeah. Yeah.
then you can access your truth.
I,
I
I, uh,
I can access my truth. I can see, well, this is what I am, a very caring and, honest person. So just because I've been living with fake confidence doesn't mean I'm a liar, doesn't mean
right.
I am worthless. And it's building up from there. It's like, no, I really do have a worth that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
That I don't know if you said this, but what's coming up is like, that was clouded by these judgments of
Yeah. I
what you
said it exactly like that.
yeah.
I'll claim it.
What I
No.
think it should be, or what other people think I should be. It's like, what does this mean for me? And
Yeah.
I don't. I told you we're going to go out of order, but just for a second, I want to
No,
put in
we're
right
good.
here.
We're good. Yeah.
Having this experience, and I remember there were specific questions that we discussed in order to really get to this. What makes something true was a big thing for me.
Yeah. Dive into it. Yeah.
What makes something true? And the coach I was working with, he said, if everybody says something about you, or I asked him, does that make it true? And I said, well, yeah, that's exactly what makes something true. What else makes something true?
Yeah.
If everybody said, I mean, that's what establishes what's true or not, does it not? And Well, I mean, the answer is no.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
everybody's struggling with that. And those exact questions, this was I'm not that old, but it was at least 12 years ago,
Yeah.
came to play in my life present day
Okay.
because of my life circumstances. I don't know if you want to dive into that, but things
It's totally
I've
up to you. Yeah. If you think it would serve, then yes.
yeah, I mean, I'm 2 years out of a very, very disturbing marriage, and as disturbing as the marriage was, divorce was even worse.
Okay.
Not being divorced is amazing, man. I would never undo that, but the process was so bad, and
Mm,
I got challenged with this thing. If everybody says something about you, does that make it true? And
okay.
I've been prepared for 12 years for this because no, it doesn't make it true. What's true for you is what's true for you. That's
Yeah.
it.
I want to hang on this. I want to stay here for a minute.
We could
Um,
stay here all day.
we really could. We could make a show of this entire part right here. Gabor Mate talks about grief, and grief is one of the journeys that we talk about because it's an important part of the process, because it's a healing process. It's a part of going through and looking at things and really experiencing the emotions and really objectively taking a look at what's going on in your life. He says it's the antithesis of trauma, which I would also venture to say that it's the opposite of um, emptiness, right? Or that imposter syndrome, or trying to match your truth to what everybody's saying in a way. Really sitting with your grief gives you a chance to look at what is true for you and what you hold as important. I think, going into it, that when you start looking at your truths, now you're looking at your beliefs, you're looking at your values, you're looking at your culture, right? You're looking at all of that and really objectively deciding at that point what's going to carry forward. So in a way, it's subjective and relative. It really is dependent on the person. Although collectively we have truths that we agree to, or groups agree to, and they say that's the truth, and then they hold to that as a group, but collectively they believe it. But objectively, when we get into the individual, we each get to decide what our truth is. And having events like what you're describing, it's not just that 12 years ago, it's through the divorce. It's not like on a timeline you can say, I only experienced this once and I'm done.
Oh no.
Yeah. So what comes up as you hear kind of that, and what other thoughts or philosophies or feelings do you have around that?
One of the big things that I have directly attached to this
Yeah.
is the see, I've always questioned everything also. So
Okay.
I have a pretty good understanding of the stuff that I've had questions about. So if
Yeah.
we're saying that everything, the only thing that makes something true is, what you decide to make it,
Okay.
there is something to learn about. If everybody tells you that you're a jerk, you could look into that and just say, huh, why are so many people telling me that?
Yeah.
Is there any truth to that? But it's not accepting that to be truth. And it's worthwhile, when you hear a pattern,
Yeah.
to just investigate a little bit and not to be like, I get to choose what I believe and I think it's not true and everybody else can go jump off a cliff. Well,
Yeah.
there might be something to that.
or
But
or that's who I am, and I'm going to live like that's who I am from here on, right?
oh, always an option. There's nothing
Okay.
wrong with being a jerk. Like that's totally an option.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's a it's a thing. It's like the misconception. I feel like Steve Chandler brought this up in one of his books. Yes, he definitely does. The businesses run into this when they say, the market
Mm,
is such and such, or there's no market for this, and you
okay.
give
Yeah.
statistics, and that doesn't matter. That still doesn't you don't have to play into that.
So in a way, it's what you choose to believe about the events in your environment and the story that you create around those events, and then how you live into that story. Is
Yeah.
that kind of the
Yeah, exactly. There's
okay?
never like it's kind of one of the things I heard through what you were saying is like there's nothing that's definitive. Nobody
Yeah.
gets like we can have a collective belief. We can all decide. I don't have any good examples right now, but whatever
Okay.
it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I can go. okay, and I just don't, and I do it differently.
Okay, so as an example, like we all decide green is green. Like we have an idea of what that means, but for somebody that's colorblind, they might come in and say, well, green isn't green. Or somebody who has no color, they might say, well, green is gray. But we have this collective agreement, so to speak, that these are the certain truths that we hold. I love hanging here for a minute, because what you're offering inside of what you're saying is that if we can just sit with our truth and really question it and observe it, kind of like somebody would do in a lab coat, is really just look at it. And if you want to hang on to it, you give it accommodation, like JP Morgan talks about accommodation and allowance. Allowance is simply the acceptance that it has room to be there. Accommodation is that it can be with you permanently. You choose to just carry it forward no matter. You
Yeah.
give it room and board. So, but when you get into the space of, I look at this waking up to it, right? Going through the journeys here of waking up to the way you've lived life, and then realizing and looking objectively at your reality as it is, that there would be a lot of emotions that come up that have you really question yourself, your identity, what you've been doing, your behaviors, and really decide from there what you're going to carry forward and what you're going to let go of, what you're going to surrender.
Yeah. And kind of like what you said, that's your whole life. That doesn't
Okay.
that doesn't stop. Like as you're talking, it's like, yeah, these things keep coming up. It's constant. I call it constant questioning. It's
Yeah. Okay.
looking at what's occurring, what am I believing,
Uh,
and what do I want to believe?
and so, yeah, I mean, I think I did that twice today already.
Okay, I would just say, nah,
Yeah.
it's not competition, but I'm gonna go with I did it once.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No competition, but I'm winning.
I have right on the table.
Yeah.
Um, um, so even though I'm 2 years out of divorce, it's ongoing
Yeah.
stuff. So I have some pretty threatening looking letters here.
Hmm.
One of them says, we will suspend your driver's license in 15 days if you don't pay this enormous amount of money, which I do not owe.
Hmm.
So I get to sit with that. What do I want to do? Do I want to be scared about that? Do I want to
Yeah. Okay.
sit in my truth? And my truth is, I don't owe this money. There is a misinformation here,
Yeah.
and I'm clear. So I called up what I'll call, I mean, I think all the numbers are the same. I called the first number and I said, I don't know why I got this notice. And he said, well, our records show it. I said, but nobody asked me about your records. So where's all your information? Would you like me to send you the correct information? And we had a conversation. He said, yeah, so here's what you got to do. You got to do this. And I said, so I'm not going to pay money I don't know. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to stay in integrity with what's true. What's true is that I don't owe that money. And
Yeah.
I'll send you whatever papers you want. And he said, what's interesting was I said, listen, I'm doing the best I can here. And there's a lot of misinformation. Just tell me what you need to do. And he said, I can hear that in your voice. And we're going to try to help you here. We're not trying to make life difficult. And I said, well, the purpose of your letter is to make my life difficult. That's why you write it so.
Yeah. It's an emotional impact, right? It's meant to get you into the emotion.
Yeah, and I told him that. I said, no, these letters are meant to get me scared. So I'm not. And I'm not going to pay that money. He said, I'm supposed to tell you. I listened to his words. He's like, well, I'm supposed to tell you that you need to send that money. And I said, okay, thank you. And I'm not going to. So glad that's clear. And give me, exactly the email you want me to send it to, and I'll send it in there. So that was my experience today.
Well,
That
yeah. I mean, we have these micro events that are exactly what you're describing. So you have an impact event, right? A letter or something in the environment triggers you, and the emotions, they may or may not get fired depending on how you approach it, right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or they may fire and then you calm down and then you're able to approach it from a logical stance. So you take the emotion back out of it. But when we get into that grieving state or that anxious state, we a lot of times lose that ability to think. with our whole mind, because
Yeah,
we get
absolutely.
impacted. So somebody in our environment, could be a family member, says something and all of a sudden we're triggered, or
Yeah,
we see something and we're triggered. Well, it still comes back to us to determine what we're going to do with those emotions. Doesn't mean that we have to control them, but we have a choice in what we're going to do from there. We may not
exactly.
have been able to control the emotion coming up because our body just does what it does. It's
Yeah,
looking to respond. So the cool thing about this is that even in a micro space of a letter, right, today, the journeys still apply, because you go through that. There's this impact point, and then you might have some calibrating between what is and what you think should be, and so you've got to kind of close the gap there.
yeah,
And also there's some acceptance of that just happened. It's not ideal, maybe I don't love it, but going into the journey of acceptance, the idea of this is what's in my space right now, this is
yeah,
what's in my world, this is what I did, or this is who I'm being right now. Can you speak to that a little bit?
yeah, yeah. There's two things that come up directly to that, and that's the
Yeah.
practice of responding versus reacting.
Okay. Okay.
The reaction is what you're saying. There's that trigger,
Yeah.
whatever, and I can react to that, or it's slowing down with that and choosing how to respond. Respond is that which I'm taking it in and making that choice what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's a practice that since I learned it years ago, that's in play. I made actually little keychains that said respond, don't react for
I like
myself.
it.
And that and it's exactly what I heard recently from Steve Hardison, which is it's not that everything has to be easy, but it's about it doesn't have to be difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Hear that
There.
from what you're
Yeah.
saying. The easy would be if I don't have any reaction at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be easy. Like you said, the trigger could be there,
Yep.
but it doesn't have to be difficult because I get to decide what I want to do with that.
Right. There's a cliche, right? The idea of reaction and creation are the same letters, they're just arranged differently. And that's
Yeah,
essentially what you're saying here is in responding, it really causes you to pause, to slow down with what event is present, and to, as much as possible, sometimes the emotions are so intense that it might take you a minute to really get back into your life, to re-engage. But
yeah,
when you do, then you have a chance to choose from there. Do I judge myself for reacting? Do I,
yeah,
or do I respond, right? Do I create with this, or do I sit in shame and judgment about how I just showed up or what's
yeah,
happening in my environment?
yeah. And that's something also that I'm still learning. It's about even not. I think that I mean because I'm learning it now, I'm going to say it's another level, but it could
Yeah.
be that basic stuff. It's not judging
Yeah.
ourselves regardless of how we did react, because that comes back to what we said in the beginning. It's
Yeah.
I'm not defined by the judgments about something that I might have done or said or reacted. I can allow myself to be human. So that's why that's a big one that's on my wall is
Yeah.
we are human. So there's no right or wrong way and there's no shame in that. And I love telling people you could always go back from here. What do you want to do with that? So I reacted a certain way. I don't know like what that would look like. Because if I reacted to this letter and I just called them up and yelled at them, that wouldn't really do anything. I could totally call back and say, okay, let's start again.
That is
They're
an
not going to
option.
say sorry. No, you already yelled at us. Like that's not even a good example. But even
Right.
things that look like it was bad, it's like
Yeah.
right now, this is what's in my life. How do I want to respond to that?
Yeah.
What do I want to create with that? What do I want to do? Creation doesn't have to be, making something. It's just choosing
Yeah.
from here what I want to do.
There's opportunity. I think of the title of the show, who do you need to be? And the you, highlighting the you, if we were to put that in all caps, underline it, highlight it, all of it, even if there are other people around us, it still comes back to the you, to the end of it, to me. And so who do I need to be is really a chance to choose who I'm going to be. And even if I was something there's a chance to rewrite that story in my mind, to go back and, not literally go back in time and change the event, because I can't change the event. But what I can change is the experience of the event, what it means to me from that event, what I'm going to carry forward from that event. Events are events. We have them every day. I teach this stuff and I go through it daily. It comes up daily for me. So I go through and when I can, when my emotions aren't firing, I'll slow down and just be with what's happening. What's the objective reality? What are some of the tools that you use? One of the tools we talk about is gratitude, but some of the emotional tools that you use to get your affect back in alignment, or calm down, or to get back to your peace or empowerment. Does that make sense? Like, how do you do that?
How do I do that?
Yeah.
For me, it's always just been a practice of slowing down.
Okay.
Because when I slow down, I can look at the thoughts and question the thoughts and see what's true for me. It's a mixture of slowing down, questioning, and also accepting, meaning I could just accept that I'm feeling what I'm feeling right now. I don't have to do anything about it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
If I choose to, I can look at the thoughts. What's really true? It's that those are the big things that I have written down on my wall, which is what I'm looking at, not looking at.
Yeah, I love
cat.
that. Yeah.
I don't have a cat, but it's that I'm human. If I'm ever unclear, I just need to slow down.
Yeah.
Who would I be with the thought, and who am I without the thought?
Do you sometimes lean on other people to help you do that? If you're unable to break through on your own, do you have friends or contacts that you can reach out to?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And I'm just trying to think of the context. Like, it's why one of the reasons I have a coach of my own. I own my coach, right? He's in my pocket. So I get he doesn't have to take my calls. But if I need, like, when I first started getting these letters, and I did, like, I got one the other week, and they just used words which are physically impossible to understand. And I learned how to just like look for highlighted, like, you must do this. If it doesn't say you must do anything, then I throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Like, you could say we're going to, that's great. Like, all this stuff. So there was another one I got the other week with a bunch of words, and I was very nervous. I was like, I just don't know what am I supposed to do here, especially since I'm innocent, right?
Okay.
And so he was able to see from an outside perspective, like, nope, just scary words, nothing you need to worry about. And I said, wow, that's very relieving.
That's a powerful thing right there, as far as a tool in your pocket. Like, when you get your power back, you're empowered. So when you get your brain back, you're able to do all the things that you know how to do, because you've trained your mind and you've stored that information, you've played with it, manipulated it, and then emotions come in and that all shuts off. And it's like, I don't remember any of that. And sometimes when the emotions are so intense and you're not able to access it, somebody else with a fresh perspective can come in and look at it and help you re-access that information. Now, you might have already known it, but you couldn't see it because it was, like you said, clouded. It was clouded by the event and the affect.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. And so when you say slow down, so Debbie Roth says this to me. I wouldn't say frequently, because we don't talk every day, but when we do talk, she'll say that to me, slow down. And I would wonder what your definition of slowing down is and what that looks like, if you were to describe that.
I love that question. I love that, because my coach taught me that. I was like, I still am pretty, like, analytical. I'm trying to get out of that completely. But I remember I was like, I don't understand. That means I should talk slowly. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So to me, slowing down always looks like,
I think of, like, Zootopia with the sloth, at the DMV.
Slowing down. And I actually had a woman call me. We had a session, and she was really struggling with this. She's like, I'm reading all this stuff about, I was like, no, stop. Just don't do anything. Like, just stop everything. Like, reading frantically to ingest as much about slowing down as possible is exactly the opposite of what slowing down is.
Yeah. Okay.
Slowing down to me always comes with, obviously, slowing down your breathing, but it's slowing down means becoming present.
Hmm.
That means you turn off all the whirling thoughts. I mean, you could follow them a little bit if you want to do some Byron Katie and
Yeah.
see about like all your fears and like my license is going to get suspended. I'm going to have no money. I'll be in jail. Like, I personally am not scared of anything or jail. Like, okay, so that's not really the worst that could possibly happen. And it's also, Byron Katie says, when you look at it, probably not that likely.
Yeah.
But just turn present right here, right now. And that's a Byron Katie practice also, that you can only be worried or anxious about anything if you're thinking about the past or the future.
Hmm.
But when you're thinking about right now, in this moment, there's never, ever a problem, no matter where you are
Yeah.
or what
Yeah.
your situation is.
Objectively, you can look around your room and see, I'm okay. My environment's okay. The world around me is okay. But if you're off in the future or the past, then you won't see that. Steve Chandler, I think he talked about one gentleman that when he was coaching him, he went off. You could see him disappear into his thoughts. And when he came back, Steve Chandler says, "Welcome back." and he brought him back to the present, and then they were able to do work. But as long as he was traveling in one direction or the other, there was no work to be done.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Keep going.
To me, slowing down is coming to right now. When I look at right now, what's true right now? And like you said, if ever it starts going about, well, this will happen, right? I for sure still have 30 days, right? So at the end of June, there'll be something about this. Okay, so if it's not right now, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Right now, what's occurring? And when you sit with that, it's like, right now, everything's fine. This woman I was speaking to, well, I'm worried about my son's future. Okay, well, that's definitely not helpful.
Right. Okay.
Right
This is
now.
valuable. Yeah.
And that's when we there's that famous thing that's always said is, what's the next one thing that you can do or that you need to do or that you want to do? And it could be nothing. I learned so much value in the doing nothing. Like right now, I just want to watch a movie. Okay, so do that.
Yeah.
Like it's so important to honor that. It's not what's the next one thing. Well, right now I should try to get hold of the president. Like, okay, if that's what occurs to you, then you're welcome to do that. But slowing down, you don't have anywhere to get to. Oh well, but I wanna really already launch my business right now, and I want to have 10 clients in the next 6 months. Like, well, right now, what's the one thing you can do? You can only have one next conversation.
Let's play with this for a minute, longer, a minute more, or 10, or however long we go. Frustration. You're going along and you're doing something, and it feels like there's no movement around the ideal that you have in mind. So you have this creation, you want to create it, you feel the frustration. I speak from experience on this. And then you feel that frustration, and there's a feeling of withdrawal because you're not there. You're not at the ideal yet. You're where you are. And so as I hear the slowing down, there's this tendency to see the frustration and feel the frustration and the pulling back of energy and power so that you can really reflect on things. And then we go immediately into problem solving, which I think is a value of depression, is that it does put us in a state where we do look for solutions to move away from that feeling, that emotion. So we want to move away from it back to our peace or calm or the excitement of whatever we're creating. But we tend to numb out in a way with our activity around trying to create ourselves out of it, that we don't really sit with the right now like you're describing. So inside of the frustration, you have your ideal, you have the reality, you feel the frustration because there's a gap between those two things. And then we feel that frustration and start acting instead of just slowing down and just being present. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. It's a foreign concept of like, and this lady, I love how she set this up so perfectly. But
mm,
she said, well, I have so much to do.
mm.
How can I slow down? Right. And it's like, it's what's the word? That thing that you think the opposite, anti,
The
uh,
antithesis.
no,
No.
that's too fancy for me. I stay basic.
Let's trim it down.
Counterintuitive.
Okay.
The more you slow down, the more you'll get done.
Yeah.
And also I do on a daily basis. I'll tell you right now, I've got this week is very, very busy in my kitchen, and I got a lot of orders. And the only way to do it is what right now. I'm just gonna just do the next one thing in front of me,
I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
because you can get anxious and keep trying to hold it all in your brain, everything. Slowing down is just stop. And it often comes with slow talking, because it helps you. What's right now?
Okay, this is cool. So imagine like as a thought, you have all these seeds in your hand as a metaphor here. And you slow down and you look and you have these seeds, these ideas in your hand, and you plant each of them, but then you want them to grow instantly. Like you're planting the seed, but you want to see the results of that seed instantaneously. Like I need to see myself out of my current situation immediately. And you don't give the seed time to grow. And
Yeah.
the truth is that the seed will grow when it grows. It'll grow in its due time. And everyone is different. But you did plant the seed, which to me is a positive. You planted the seed, but it's almost even slowing down more into the idea of which seed do I want to plant from where I'm at? Which one thing could I do right now? I'm going to plant that and then let it grow, right? Not force that thing to
Yeah.
to get where you think it needs to be, right? The forcing of it. Does that bring
And
up anything?
yeah, I think that idea is also shared similarly. And Steve Chandler has the ultimate time management audio,
Okay.
and he applies it to when I do one thing right now, as if like that's the only thing I have to do today,
Mm,
and I get to relax with that. And then when that's done, then I go, like you said, what's the next one thing I want to do?
yeah, yeah.
And it gets everything done faster. It also feels so much better. Like my life is so much more enjoyable when I get to slow down and just be right here. I don't need to make anything happen. I don't need to have some great big, I'm living my ideal right now.
Okay, so this segues perfectly, I think, and we'll see if it does. It segues with uncertainty and abundance, right? The idea that we don't know the next step, we don't know the future. Um, we can work toward into the unknown, but a lot of people don't want to work into the unknown because it's scary. We describe it as scary, right? And then we, in our current situation, can't see the abundance around us because we're blinded by what is. And so we don't see resources or people or connections or express gratitude because we're so hyper focused. It's like we've zoomed in a million times on the problem at hand. And it's the only thing we can see in our world. So when we look at that and then we look into the future, into the unknown, all we still see is the current problem extending out into the future because it's right here and it's extended out. Does that make sense? Or maybe you have a different version of that.
Well, I just want to say to all of our listeners who keep getting triggered by every time you say into the unknown and you start singing the Frozen songs, I'm doing it. So it's fine. We're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
After you can, if you can pull yourself out of that for a minute.
Well,
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that till now, and now it's stuck in my head. Thank you.
yeah, no. So
Yeah.
I was a little bit thinking about the song, but yeah, what you're saying is we zoom in on the problem, but that's why slowing down really is the answer to everything,
Yeah.
because it's also it's pulling back, if you want to put it that way, pulling
Yeah.
back from the micro, like what is right now? Like, I actually, I think I understand the words that you're saying now, how that opens us up to the abundance, because I, no matter, no matter how much money I'm ever going to have to pay that I don't owe, I'm not going to be homeless, and I'm not going to be
Yeah.
collecting money. So I have everything that I need. And some people call this a gratitude practice. I don't do that. I don't do practices. I just live my life.
Okay.
So simple. I have gratitude every day for everything that I have. But I wouldn't call it a practice. That's just me taking notice of, and I'll just be frank with you. I mean, there's a lot of things in my life. I'll just give you one example. Is this is not to make anything happen. This is like legit the practice of slowing down and noticing that my bed is amazing. So every night I get into bed, I'm just so thankful.
Huh.
Like, I got this. Like, it's not therefore I should be happy and grateful and not afraid of anything.
No, that kills the energy of it. Yeah.
Right? It's just looking around. It's like, I don't have anything not to be thankful for.
Well, and your current situation doesn't eliminate all of the connections that you have, all that you've created. I mean, even if that went away, let's say that it did go away, like your home was gone and all your assets were gone, and you're left with one pair of clothing, it's still, you still have connections, you still have possibilities to draw from, to create with. You know, even the internet, you still have access to be able to reach out to people.
That's that's a true point, and I wanted to speak to that right for a second.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the exact example. Okay. I think what happened was when my divorce started, I did leave my home with nothing.
Mm.
I wasn't planning on leaving, and the police were involved, but I didn't do anything. So nobody
Okay.
get afraid. Like, she
Yeah.
literally lost it and called the police when I wasn't home to say things that I did when I wasn't there. It was strange. So I waited. I got notified about this, so I waited till the police left, and I went into my home and I took uh like I don't know if it was a handful of clothing, like that's it.
Yeah.
And then I was done. I had nothing. And through that process, I realized what was holding me back was, well, all my stuff is there. I'm not going to go buy new stuff if it's right there behind
Yeah.
that wall,
Yeah.
and it's holding me back from starting over. And I realized
Mm.
anything that I need, like you just said, I have connections. I can restart. And it was simply that decision or that realization that I'm okay, and I can, if I need, get everything that I needed. Allowed, like, I don't like saying fancy things, but I'm gonna have to in this point. Like, it
Sure.
allowed those things into my life without me needing to come onto it. So
Yeah.
for a concrete example, I'm in this apartment right now, which you can't see because I turned on this background for the first time.
Yeah.
I've never done this background before, and I left my house in March of 2020, and I'm in this apartment from April. So I wasn't even a month without a place to live. I mean, in the interim, I was by my parents' house, and only when I was like, well, how am I going to pay for my mortgage and my lawyer fees and everything and a new apartment?
Mm.
And it was when I realized, like, kind of like you said, that my parents said, if you need rent, we'll give you rent. It's like not the end of the world. And when I became open to that,
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
life is not over, and I can get whatever I need if I need it. It allowed me to never ever need that. I
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't have money
Interesting.
for rent or needed, because I was open to, well, if I need that, that's where I'll be, and I'll be open to receiving that. So it's a really big point that I noticed and I've taken away from,
Yeah.
when we are open, when we're not locked in to our own thoughts, like, oh, I can't ask other people for things, or I can't
Our
ask
story,
for what
right?
I need.
Yeah.
Stop those thoughts, like, hey, that would be okay. It allowed those things to come into our life. I have no other
Yeah.
way of putting it other than I've seen that.
Well, I've seen it. I've seen it in clients too. I've seen it in myself. You know, when I got divorced, I moved into my brother's basement, into a bedroom, and she stayed in the home with the kids, and I was paying the mortgage, and paying a lot, a lot more than I needed to per our agreements, but I didn't need much more than that. Truthfully, like I still had access to everything that I needed. I still got to see my kids. I still had my connections. There were some dark times in that, sometimes where I didn't fully see it, right? I was zoomed so far into the issue
Yeah.
that I
Mhm.
couldn't see that. But as I'd practice into it, I was able to step back. Like you say, you're able to zoom out. We do every week, we do what's called the Giants overview. We'll get together and we'll just zoom out and look at all the things that we're working on and just kind of decide what to do with them, right? Create a plan from it. But if we're in the problem, working the problem, that's all we see is that problem. So the overview allows us to step up and see it from a higher perspective, so to speak, and really shrink it down to what it is, rather than making it this big problem. But
Yeah.
like you're saying is, all of these things are available around us, but then sometimes our story gets in the way and doesn't let us let go so that we can see what's around us. Like, all we're doing is taking these resources and manipulating them and forming them into creations that didn't even exist before we got a hold of them. But they're drawn from materials that are around us. Richard Paul Evans says that chaos is the mind of creation, right? So if that were the chaos, then that's what we get to draw from. But if our story gets in the way, all we see is dirt, right?
Yeah.
All we see is a mountain. All we see is a tree, whereas somebody else sees a home, right? Or gold or whatever they want, a cell phone, right? Out of sand. It's like, I'm going to take sand and convert it into a cell phone. And I know that's not all that goes into it, but it's the same idea that we draw from these materials to create with, but we didn't have to go create these materials or these people for us to connect with. They were already created. It's up to us to see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I think when we're so zoomed in on our problem, it's hard to see anything because we're hyper focused on the issue at hand. And if we can't step back on our own, then this is where a coach comes in handy,
Yeah.
or a therapist or a friend, where we can really step back and look at it.
Yeah. And just that's what I see is being so valuable. And just what's coming up is the importance, I don't want to say of not coaching without permission, but for someone to be open to that. A friend texted me this week telling me he's in a bad place, and I'm just showing up as me, and I'm like, what's going on? And it's hard for me to see someone so stuck and to say, okay, I'm just gonna let you saute in that. So I did ask, I was like, do you want, something else possible?
Yeah.
Like, people are not going to necessarily verbalize it this way, but the answer is no. Some people like being in that, and it's like, obviously they don't really like it, but they don't recognize the depth to what's possible when you step out of your story.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about vision now. So we're talking about vision and surrender and nurture. So those would be the three next journeys, because vision is kind of your imagination of what's possible. And then surrender in our world is surrendering the path, not the vision. So how it comes about, we just open up to whatever way it's going to come about. And then nurture is the activity that you take around that path and toward the vision.
Okay.
Now, if you have a variation of that, I'd love to hear that. Or within that, if you have some philosophies that you use to anchor in what you're imagining and creating in the future, and how you handle that. Does that make sense?
What I'm hearing is, if there's a vision, how do you anchor in, or what do you do to make that stay alive?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
and when possible, to bring it into your objective reality, right? To take an idea or an imagining and make it real.
So yeah, to me, that comes back to what we already spoke about in terms of slowing down and the next one action, and
Yeah.
maybe to the title of this talk, who you need to be. Meaning, if you do have a vision, I personally am not a big vision guy. Don't come
Yeah.
to me if you
Okay.
want to create a vision. I live right now. That's my vision.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm not anti creation of vision, but it's like, this event that I'm creating, that one.
Yeah.
If I saw that as being separate from myself, the question, like you're saying, who do you see you being in that situation?
Yes. Yeah. That's a perfect
Like
example.
I like to ask people, and how do you see yourself now? And what, it's as you said something about clearing a path, maybe. If not, I'm gonna say it's like
Yeah.
clearing a
Do
path.
it.
You
Yeah.
slow down between this gap you created between this vision who you think you're gonna be and who you think you are now.
Yeah.
So that might be as simple as I want to be someone who can stand confidently in front of 300 people, and now I am not. Okay, well, what's the gap? What what how do you show up differently if you were someone who could stand in front of 300 people? Like, what does that look like to you? What does that feel like to you? And why can't you be that now?
Yeah.
If if i you know some if I was someone who stood in front of 300 people, I would probably, you know be confident enough to do an interview with Nick Smith, but I could never do that today. That's something I need to work to. Well, what's the gap? Like, why is it not as simple as reaching out to Nick Smith and saying, "Hey, I want to do an interview with you"?
Yeah. 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 There.
That's how I see it bringing the future into now, because it's a I wrote something about this once. Instead of looking to bridge the gap, stop creating it.
Yeah. Clarify. Say that another
You,
way.
your, you yourself have put your future self out there.
Yeah.
You've put yourself where you are today here. So
Yeah.
you've made this distance, right?
You've
I could
imagined a
never
gap,
be.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I am not someone who I've never spoken in public before. I can't speak in front of 300 people, but I would love to one day. Well, who are you right now that can't do it? And this is what slowing down is. It's like, I don't understand. You clarify for me why you can't do that today.
Hmm.
Oh, well, I'm so, what are people going to think of me? Like, I literally have no background and no credentials and no, I haven't graduated high school. Cool. So you've created this reality where all that matters. So you
Yeah.
couldn't do all that stuff. The you in the future is still not going to have graduated high school or have any credentials, but you can
Yeah.
chase
Yeah.
them. People do. They chase their credentials and the certifications. What if this was all about you?
Conditional, right? It's conditional. If I had these things, then I could do that.
Yeah,
Versus I have these things and I am that, or I am creating that, and these are present no matter what. So it's really stepping in, regardless of your current situation, is stepping into the imagination, the vision, like yours is out in the future as far as a calendar goes. But in your world internally, you're already that, if I'm
yeah,
hearing you.
yeah. That's exactly it. And this is like there was a event, I don't know if everybody knows, in Phoenix, and
Yeah.
I sat at the event because that's the point. It's not about who you are today. Is not who you're going to be in 10 years. You're going to be more you. It's not going to be someone else.
Yeah.
It's be accessing. Oh, that's in there the whole time. The only thing that changes is your thoughts around that. So that's why Steve Chandler says, if somebody says they want to be a public speaker, he says, you're lying. Because if you were, you would be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all it takes. Just start doing it. So that's what I like to look at when there's a future, like, no, one day I want to be doing this. And why aren't you doing that today? I don't understand. What's different? It's only, all these things you're going to tell me, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. I have no confidence. Okay, well, start getting them.
Justifications. Yeah. Yeah.
Start doing it, whether you feel like it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't know how to do a thing, start doing it. Rich Lippin says, how do you get confident? You start being confident.
That's exactly it. That's
Steve
exactly it.
Chandler, he calls it commitment, right? If you're not doing it, you're not committed, because the word commit means to do. And
Yeah.
and that's essentially what you're describing here, is that if you're going to be that in some perceived future, some thought about future, then you can be that right now. So it's really just a matter of deciding to do it and doing it.
Yeah. And just to make it even deeper,
Yeah.
if you have the vision, it has to be that it's inside of you right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Or else you wouldn't have that idea.
Yeah.
There's somebody who cannot physically sing and they're just not a singer. Their vision would never be that they want to be a world famous singer. It's just not in their repertoire.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
it is, then it's got to be inside of them.
Yeah.
So not only are you already what you want, but it has to be, or else you would never have that idea.
It's already in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. This is, I see, and we've already gone an hour and it feels like 10 minutes. And I feel like I could keep going on each of these threads and just dive into a rabbit hole with you on each of these. Right.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of the show, as we kind of reach, what you've encompassed here is you've hit all the journeys. Obviously, I'm guiding and directing in some form. I'm priming that. But the final one is the legacy. Like, what legacy do you want to leave when you're gone? Rephoel's gone. He's no longer here on the earth. Or even while you are here, what legacy do you want to leave on this earth? What is it that you want to give back to the world?
And that's a great question. And I love something that I heard from Steve Chandler as well is that's not a focus of mine. I am not legacy focused. I am living focused.
Uh,
I don't need anything to happen after me. I know that when I live to my fullest and who I am, then besides that that's enough for me. I
yeah.
know that that's the difference.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything that makes is all I need. It's me not living my truth, which I have to be afraid of, or which I choose to be afraid of.
Yeah, yeah. See, the languaging, the consciousness around your words is really important. A lot of times we'll say things and we're just so unconscious to what we're saying, but we're saying what's going on within us. Somebody
Yeah,
that's saying that I have to do that really has the perception and the belief and the value that is the condition of their success. And you coming back to the idea of I choose that, or I'm choosing that in the moment that might change, is really just a consciousness of how powerful our words are, only because they're indicating what's going on in here. They're a declaration of what's already playing out inside of you, right?
yeah,
I say right like I need you to say right, but you could say no, Nick, that's not right at all.
yeah. No, it's true. And because we're wrapping up, I just wanted to say that it's so important because of the title is who do you need to be? It's really like we're talking about. There is no one you need to create yourself to be that's not who you already are.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
It all comes down to you are all you need to be.
I love that. There is one final question I love to ask everybody, and that is, if you were to go back in time and share one piece of wisdom with yourself that you could carry forward, what would that be?
A good thing I didn't prepare this one.
Yeah,
What's coming up for me right now is that you are okay just the way you are.
I like it. I like it. Is there anything else you want to share today?
I mean, like you said, we could go on for hours. I actually don't have time. You don't either have time.
Yeah.
But no, this is great. I'm glad we got to, discuss all that we did. And I used to not trust myself to that anything made sense. So I would say, I hope that made sense. I'm pretty confident now that made
it,
sense. So I don't
it,
have to worry about that.
it did make sense. A lot of sense. Very valuable. I appreciate you. Appreciate your time. For you that are watching, thanks for being on with us. Remember, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're right on time. Keep doing what you're doing. As you can learn from things and grow, do that. Start being who you want to be in the future now, like Rephoel says. So thanks for being on. We'll see you in the next episode.